I welcome you all to the 14th lecture for the course on International Investment Law and the Environment. So, in this lecture, we will be looking at one of the investment protection standard. I have a habit of mentioning investment protection standard part 1, part 2, part 3 in my course outline on the course on International Investment Law. So, I followed the same thing. Otherwise, you can even consider this lecture to be a lecture on expropriation, and the next lecture to be a lecture on fair and equitable treatment, and the subsequent one as a lecture on full protection and security clause. So why did I decided to discuss the expropriation provision first? Because expropriation provision is something that you will find universally in all international investment agreements. However, we do see a trend. There's a decline in number of cases where expropriation is alleged, whereas we do see a significant increase in number of cases where a violation of fair and equitable treatment is alleged, right? So there's a decline of this, but still this is something that was a contest between capital exporting countries and capital importing countries. Remember all our discussion with regard to whether the host state, do they have a right to expropriate? Then we had seen how capital exporting countries started acknowledging the right, provided it is done for public purpose and all of those. So essentially, this particular provision got crystallized in a bilateral investment treaty as well. Now this is a provision you will find in international investment agreements. So what does such a provision in a bilateral investment treaty say? So a provision that talks about expropriation in an international investment agreement will say few things. Firstly, it will say the provision may be titled as expropriation, or it may be titled as protection against expropriation, and the content will say that expropriation can happen. Expropriation or nationalization can happen, but certain conditions have to be fulfilled. What are those conditions? It should be pursuant to sovereign power. It should be taken for a public purpose. It should not be non-discriminatory, arbitrary. It has to be on payment of compensation. So, and a due process should be followed. When these conditions are fulfilled, then expropriation is legal. So that is why expropriation could be either legal or illegal, or expropriation could be direct or indirect. Direct expropriation means legal expropriation. That means all the conditions have been followed. Please note, one of the conditions is payment of compensation, right? So when all of these conditions are followed, that is considered as direct expropriation or legal expropriation. The other kind of expropriation, which is indirect expropriation or illegal expropriation, a protection against this is also given in the bilateral investment treaty. How? Because in the bilateral investment treaty, the provision will read any measure that is equivalent to expropriation or tantamount to expropriation should not be done. That is what the bilateral investment treaty will say. So what do we mean equivalent to expropriation or tantamount to expropriation? In case of direct expropriation, there is outright seizure. But when you are saying that it is equivalent to expropriation, there is no outright seizure of the property, but the effect is there. So there may be substantial deprivation. The legal rights may still be with the investor, but the investor is not able to carry on any economic activities. All of these would be considered as indirect expropriation or illegal expropriation. Now, what complicates the assessment of the tribunal when it has to look at whether this indirect expropriation is, the tribunal essentially has to decide whether the measure that was taken by the host state is a legitimate regulatory measure, or if it in fact is an indirect expropriation. Please note, the compensation standard may also differ. In case of direct expropriation, the compensation may be little lower, but in case of indirect expropriation, due to the illegality of the nature of the measure, the compensation is higher. Generally, restitution, reparation and all of these is asked, but the most cited standard for an indirect expropriation is that of Charzo Factory standard. I hope you remember Charzo Factory case. So whatever standard of compensation is mentioned in that case is usually cited as compensation for indirect expropriation. So essentially, the quantum of compensation in case of indirect expropriation is higher than the quantum of compensation for direct expropriation. There can also be one type of indirect expropriation. This is one type of indirect expropriation that is known as creeping expropriation. There is no one measure taken by the host state, but series of measures are taken by the host state which has an effect of substantial deprivation of the investment. So that sort of an expropriation is known as creeping expropriation. Please note, creeping expropriation is one kind of indirect expropriation. Similarly, you have nationalization also, right? Nationalization is one kind of direct expropriation. Okay, coming back to the point about regulatory measure versus indirect expropriation, that is what forms subject matter of many disputes that are filed in the recent years. Like I told you, direct expropriation has come down. So what the tribunal essentially looks at is whether the measure that government has anyway taken a measure where the investment has been made, and that government had taken a measure. That measure could be an environmental protectionist measure also. You know, the government might have taken a measure for protecting the environment in the country, but that may result in substantial deprivation of the investment. Then in that case, can the investor bring a claim of indirect expropriation? For instance, I'm going to give you an example from a real life case. There was this nesting ground of leatherback turtles in Costa Rica. So in order to protect the nesting grounds of leatherback turtles, Costa Rica stated that no commercial activities can happen in that particular beach. So there are certain beachfront properties that were to be developed by foreign nationals, and then this nesting ground measure, protection of nesting ground measure, affects their investment. Now they can't have any commercial use of that property, right? So then can they say that that regulatory measure, an environmental regulatory measure taken by the government, affects their investment, and then there is substantial deprivation, so that it amounts to indirect expropriation? Now the tribunal here will look at whether this was a legitimate regulatory measure. If it finds that the measure that was taken by the host state is a legitimate regulatory measure, then the tribunal will not award any compensation. Please note, that is what distinguishes a legitimate regulatory measure from a direct expropriation. In case of direct expropriation, an expropriation becomes legal only if you pay compensation. So only in case of legitimate regulatory measure, a host state will not be asked to pay compensation. But if the tribunal finds it to be an indirect expropriation and it's a disguised regulatory measure, then a higher quantum of compensation had to be paid. This is what generally forms the content of expropriation provision. What are the factors that the tribunal consider in order to distinguish between a regulatory measure and an indirect expropriation? That is something that we will carry forward our discussion in the 5th week of the course. The 5th week of the course is going to talk about the different approaches of the tribunal in deciding precisely this particular point, and this is something that's very crucial for our course because we are talking about environment and international investment law, right? So what role an environmental regulatory measure plays and how it is dealt with by the tribunals is something that forms a very integral part of our course. So we'll discuss these aspects in detail in the next week of the course. So with that, I conclude lecture number 14. In the next lecture, we will look at one other investment protection standard that is guaranteed under an international investment agreement to the investor, and that standard is fair and equitable treatment, a very important and a very controversial investment protection standard. Thank you.